All right, what's up, everybody? It is Cover Band Central. This is Steve Witchell. I am the founder of Cover Band Central. It is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. It is still 2020, believe it or not. It is 2:06 p.m. Central Time here in New Orleans. I'm really excited about this interview today. I first heard about these guys in the Cover Band Central group when Paul of this group posted a video of him and his wife playing a song. And that's not unusual in the group. People do that all the time. But what was unusual about it to me was that he wrote that they were doing 100 songs in 100 days. And I thought to myself, that's very, very ambitious. That's something that I don't hear a lot of people doing ever. I mean, anything like that. So I decided I wanted to really talk to these guys and get to the bottom of what drove them to do this, what kept them inspired during this whole thing, and a lot of other things. And I invite you guys to ask questions too as you're watching this. They are in Manchester, England. And I meant to ask you how to say your last name, and I didn't ask, but it's Helen and Paul. And it looks like Bytheway, but let's bring them in. That's how you say it, by the way? Okay.
That is right. Yeah.
And they are from a band called the Horse Puppets, so let's bring them in. Here we go. Paul and Helen, what's up? Welcome to Cover Band Central today. By the way.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, how are you guys doing over there in Manchester, England during this pandemic? How are you guys holding up? What's going on in the scene? Are clubs opening again? Are people playing, or is everybody pretty much stuck at home?
No, nobody's playing. There's no gigs going on at all. We've lost every gig for the foreseeable future. And yeah, all the there's the occasional socially distant gig. Sort of in September there was a couple, but they were all outside, and it's starting to get really cold again now. So
okay.
I imagine all of them will stop now. So yeah, it's completely brought everything to a halt.
So did this? I mean, for us, I'm normally a full-time musician here in New Orleans, and for us, we got our last gig was March 15th. So was it about the same time for you guys?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And what your band is the Horse Puppets. What were you guys doing pre-pandemic? Were you playing gigs every weekend? Were you playing occasionally? What were you doing?
Yeah,
all the time. We're full-time
do.
Musicians. That's been our job for the last 8 years. So our week would normally look like playing in a bar a couple of times a week, then a couple of events. And then for the summer, we had a lot of festivals booked in. We were really excited for 2020 because we had a few big festivals. And within the space of 48 hours, it was just
we lost everything.
For everybody all around the world. So I mean, it's so you had festivals booked, but were you playing like bars and pubs mostly, or parties, or
a bit of a mixture? Because we were the Horse Puppets is. Well, before the lockdown, we only did original music, and then we have another band called the Retrosettes that does covers. So that's the one that we went under that name when we were doing all private functions and things. But it's don't know what we're going to do next year. But there was a lot of bars and things as well, venues, festivals, just a bit of a mixture.
Okay, so the Horse Puppets is your original band, and I saw that you have on your website you have an album there that people can check out, which I listened to a little bit of it. Very good, really well produced. And your website is thehorsepuppets.com. So if anybody wants to check it out. All right, so let's get to this project. To me, I see you guys laughing. This is something that is highly ambitious to me for generally for anybody. Your project, for people who don't know, was you chose to do 100 songs in 100 days and cover songs and film your performance and then upload it to YouTube and then share it on Facebook and whatever. For anybody to do 100 anything for 100 days is highly ambitious. You know, if you ask somebody do 10 push-ups for 100 days in a row, they'll be like, yeah, I can do it. And they'll get to day like 10 or so and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. So first of all, how did you come up with this idea to do this?
Well, we'd started in March. We started doing streaming every week. So as soon as we went into lockdown, the very first Friday, we got a very simple attachment for one of our phones where we could plug a couple of mics into it, and we started streaming every week. And the reaction to it was like we'd never seen actually in the online world. We'd posted things before, obviously, like our own songs, cover songs, but I think just when everybody was in lockdown, it was just like, you know, all of a sudden everybody was behind us and they were with us and they could see that we were going through it as well. So we'd been streaming for probably 3 months before we started the 100 day. And so we'd got a bit of momentum going already, that we'd got people messaging us with, can you do this song? Can you do this song? Every day. So
then we did a week, didn't we, where we were like, right, okay, if you send us your requests, we'll have one of the streaming nights where we just play your requests. And then it was born out of that, wasn't it?
But yeah, and people are requesting our songs as well, which is quite nice. So people have got to know our own repertoire. But off the back of that, we just thought, let's just go for it. Like, we're getting that many requests and there's lots of songs we'd like to learn.
Yeah.
And to start with, it was quite easy. Like you say, the first week of the 10 push-ups is easy. We thought, yeah, this is brilliant. We've already got most of the songs in the first week we already knew. And then we sort of got into the teens and we thought, this is actually taking up quite a lot of time. This is, it's like, you know, it's not just a simple one camera thing. By the end, we've got 3 cameras from different angles. It's all going through a recording studio for this. So I have to mix the audio and then do a full 3 camera edit and then piece it all together and do all the color grading and everything else. So I think by the time we've learned the song and edited it, it's probably about 3 hours minimum, I would say, to learn a song from scratch, because we only did songs that we already know in the first week or so.
Yeah,
and after that, every single one we've had to learn it and perform it on the same day.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I think the weirdest thing about it for us is that normally we're the complete opposite to this. So normally we'd be, you know, we'll do 3 gigs a week, say 3 or 4 gigs a week. We might learn 1 song each week, I would say, on average.
Yeah.
And then we'll play that song 4 times that week in a gig setting after doing a rehearsal. And then by the end of that 4th gig, we know it really well, don't we? Yeah. Whereas with this, we go from not knowing a song in the morning to having to have it perfect, where we're not even reading from a chart in the afternoon. Then by the evening, we've turned it into an immortalized video. And then we're on to the next one the next day. And then a week later, somebody will say, oh, we saw that one that you played a week. Can you do that one? And I've got no recollection of ever even playing that song before.
We both sit there going,
did we do that one?
How does that one go?
I sound vaguely. So it's really weird, the mentality you get into, because it's so different to when you're in a covers band and you learn something and then you keep playing it until you. Yeah. With this, we've just got really good at learning something fast and then forgetting it. It's not much of a skill, but we've definitely learned it.
Yeah, I really took note of that. Well, I watched a bunch of your videos. I didn't watch them all, but I watched
there are a lot.
I watched a bunch of them, and I was really fascinated by the fact that it didn't appear that you were reading charts, that you were reading lyrics, and you were really, like getting into the song. And I'm like, how do these guys know this many songs, without having to read lyrics? So I considered that you already either knew them already, or like you said, you learned them. So, I mean, that's work. That's not easy, because anybody, even at a pro level, for somebody to learn a song early in the day and then go and then perform it and record it, and have it come off as if you already knew it, that's not easy. That's work. and to do that for that long, to me is tremendous, and I think it really deserves recognition, which is really why one of the reasons why I wanted to spotlight you guys, because again, that's not for any musician to do 100 songs in 3 months of any songs, covers, whatever. It just doesn't happen, so I really commend you guys for putting in that effort. Now let's get to the selection process. Like you said, you started off for the first week or so with songs you already knew. How was it? I said, you said you were getting requests and stuff, but how did you really choose songs from one day to the next? Did you base it solely on requests, or on songs that you always wanted to play, or was it a combination of both?
It was a bit of a mixture, really, because like some of the suggestions that people gave us, you'd get into our studio and we'd start playing them, and then we'd quickly figure out, yeah, this isn't working. Or the songs that we were choosing ourselves, which we thought we'd really like to cover, and again, it wouldn't work out. Or the complete opposite. There's people who gave us suggestions of songs and we were like, oh, not sure about that, and then we'd really get into it, and it worked for some reason. It worked.
I think as well, we were talking about this earlier as to the selection process, that when we were gigging, the main objective was usually to get people dancing, or to get people being more lively than they were before we came on. So we had a very clear sort of song selection process when we were gigging in venues and festivals and what have you. But when you're on your own, there's no audience there. It's almost better to have something that's a little bit more ambient and a bit more sort of thoughtful, and definitely have more sort of dynamics in.
Yeah.
But the stuff that I don't know whether it would work in the sort of venues that we play in with our band anyway. I think you'd need a listening audience to sort of perform a lot of the songs that we've chosen for this. You'd need like a perfectly, I mean, some of them are a bit more upbeat, but I still don't know whether it would work, because you do an upbeat one, then you need them all to sit down and be perfectly silent, or they wouldn't get the dynamics in it. But I think at one point we went through Spotify numbers. Do you remember that period?
Oh, yeah.
Sort of around 20 to 30 out of 100.
Yeah, you'll notice some more modern ones.
Yeah, there was a few. We thought, right, what we'll do, we want to get as many people watching these as possible. So what we'll do is we'll go on Spotify and we'll have a look at the songs that are getting like nearly 1 billion streams. We thought, right, we'll cover those ones for a bit. So we went through a period of doing like Billie Eilish and The Weeknd, and like, what else did we do?
Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, a few British pop bands and stuff. And actually, they weren't the ones that got the most hits.
No, it was weird. We had sort of like a run of like some 80s ones, didn't we?
Yeah, there was some 80s and 90s. But it was the classics. I mean, we did Hotel California one day, and we did Wuthering Heights, Kate Bush, and then we did the Shallow from Star Is Born, and then there was just a load of sort of classic tunes. But I don't really think that we could say what the technique was for picking songs, because it was so random in the end.
But the thing is, like, you and I clashed as well.
Yeah, occasionally I'd want to do one, and Helen wasn't up
Paul
for it.
really likes The Doors, and I was like,
I sneaked one in. I managed to sneak one in.
I saw that. Yeah.
We did Strange Days, but that was it. And I don't think I actually told you. I think I played it to you rather than showing you.
Yeah, you didn't tell me who the band was.
So.
I told a friend of mine last night that I was going to be doing this interview, and he said, ask them if they're sick of each other after 100 days.
No, it's given them. Occasionally we've had arguments about it when it's like 8 o'clock at night and we still haven't put one out and we're still trying to learn it. We might have a few.
It's only natural, and also like for Paul, it's really easy. You can just stick a cap on, whereas like for me, it's like I have to do my hair and my makeup. Obviously, tonight this is me au natural.
Right.
And there's some days I was just like, I just don't want to do my hair and makeup anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like 100 days is a long time, and once you start doing it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then it starts to get like, like we got to do this again.
Yeah.
But you would do your video and you would complete it, and then would you have a preparation for the next day before you went to sleep that night? Like, would you know what song you're going to do?
Always.
No?
We weren't that organised, really.
Really? Okay.
We went through a couple of weeks on it where we got ahead of ourselves, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we had a Saturday, Sunday where we went for it and did maybe, I think the most we did at once was about 7 songs, so we had a week's worth in
No,
advance.
it wasn't as much as that.
No, I think we did 1 week. We
You
had
did just 1
7,
week?
yeah. But
Okay.
by the time we got to about 60, we were learning 1 in the morning,
And doing it.
performing it in the afternoon, and then hopefully finishing it early evening, and then we do the same thing again the next day.
Yeah.
And that when some of the songs got harder and harder, and then we sort of got bullied into it, because the fans of the band, they've called themselves the puppeteers, because we're the horse puppets, and they kept banging on about us doing Bohemian Rhapsody all the way through. As a joke, like saying, "Oh, if you're not going to do it this week, you're going to have to do it as number 100." And it just kept going on, and we kept refusing, saying it's too hard with just the 2 of us. How the hell are we supposed to do that? But yeah, we did do that. For song 100 is Bohemian Rhapsody, and it took us about 3 days solid just to learn it, and then another day of recording it.
Yeah. That's not an easy song. I saw that you did that as number 100, but I confess I didn't watch it. I watched a bunch of the other ones. I didn't watch that one yet. Because I'm thinking like Bohemian Rhapsody. That's super ambitious. But I will watch it, and I encourage people out there to watch it.
It's the whole thing as well.
It is,
it's like
we didn't
we've
miss
not done
any
a
of it.
shortened version like they used to do live. We've done the whole thing.
Right. So I mean, so there's a bunch of things that I really love about this. Just, I mean, first of all, obviously the ambitiousness of doing all this, but the quality of you mentioned that you're using 3 cameras, and the quality of those cameras, the quality of the video is high. It's not, you know, I like it. You're using better cameras than I'm using here, and you do the switching of the angles and stuff. And every video I watched, there were no cuts or anything. You were performing it live. You were just yeah. So talk about that process of filming it and then going afterwards and editing and all the stuff you had to do in order to get it ready to upload.
Yeah, I mean, I got quicker at that. As we went through the 100, I got quicker and better at it, but not all of it was practice. Some of it was some extra equipment I actually bought along the way.
We have to sell some of our
we've actually sold some of the stuff that we would normally gig with, because we just think it's going to be so long before we gig again, and we needed a better setup for not just for this challenge, but because the cameras that we use in the 100 challenge are also the cameras that we can stream with as well. So we sold a load of gear and then bought these cameras. But yeah, how we've done it in the end is that there's 3 cameras in the room, and they go into a little black magic switcher that you know, you can press buttons and program it so that it changes angle. But I don't do any of that. I do it all afterwards. But yeah, you basically just have to record it onto this unit. Onto a hard disk, and then that goes into my Mac, and then I've got Logic open, and I edit the audio, because I multi-track the audio, and then I sync it up with the 3 videos, and then just choose where I want all the cut points to be on the transitions, and then do a color grade. So yeah, I mean, I reckon how quickly do you think I do one now? An hour. So yeah, that was after doing 100 of them, I can do the edit in an hour. That's
not bad. I mean, considering the final product, that's not bad. Did you find it fun, or was it work?
I think. What do you think?
I reckon it was like maybe 75% fun.
Okay.
Very diplomatic.
And
I mean, some of the songs, some of the 100 are our own songs as well. So it was nice, and we didn't just play them as we've recorded them either. So we've got a version on the 2 albums we've released, and then we did a different version. And we found it interesting that approaching our own songs and changing them for that setting, a sort of more ambient acoustic duo, was exactly the same as approaching somebody else's song that we were doing as a cover. And that was the bit we found. I don't think either of them was any harder or easier. It was just.
No.
But I think the best thing out of it is we now know 100 songs that we actually really like playing, because we spent a day on each of them, really getting them to a point that we're happy with. So.
And I think as well, like doing
no fillers.
Doing
ones
something for 100 days as well. It really makes you hone your craft.
Absolutely.
That's something that
we've both got better, haven't we?
Yeah, totally. And I think before lockdown and all of this happened, like you'd kind of get to the point after 8 years of getting really comfortable, but not in a good way, of being able to play things. So then it becomes almost like habitual, whereas like this, because you can't put out 100 songs with them all sounding the same, it doesn't.
You've got to have that variety.
So you've got to have it. So
you've got to explore.
It's made me in particular really think about how songs are arranged, and it's made me fall back in love with playing the piano again as well, which has been amazing.
Were you not playing before? Playing piano?
Yeah, I was, but I don't think I was. I think I was doing it just to sort of like the bare accompaniment, you know,
making up the numbers.
Making up the numbers. Whereas I feel like I've really fallen back in love with just tinkering, you know, and just sort of like playing around with stuff. Whereas I felt like I'd lost that a little bit, which was, you know, I'm just really grateful to get that back again.
Yeah, I could, you know, the instrumentation, you know, Paul, you're playing guitar most of the time, and Helen, you're playing either the acoustic piano or the Rhodes, and I saw at least one where Paul, you were playing piano too. The both of you were playing.
Yeah.
And but you're talking about the arrangements. Let's talk about that for a minute. Some of the standouts for me let's go to the first song that I saw, and I don't know if that was the only one that you posted in the group, Paul, but the first one that caught my attention was Girls on Film, and I saw that there was a still of the video, and it said Girls on Film, 100 songs in 100 days, and I thought to myself, I mean, I know that song well, but that's an upbeat Duran Duran song, and I'm thinking like, all right, how is this gonna sound with just, you know, kind of an acoustic coffeehouse feel? And I started watching it. I was like, wow. I mean, that's a really cool interpretation of that song. And most of this material is like that. It's kind of a more of a stripped down acoustic, interpretation of these songs. But some of them, you were actually like really kind of completely changed it musically, and a couple that stood out to me. One was My Generation by The Who, and The Who for me is one of my all-time favorite bands.
Right.
One of the first rock bands I ever got into was The Who, and so I'm like, okay, My Generation, how are they going to do this like this? And I started watching it, I'm like, they completely changed the song. Like, you came up with different chords, and just while still sticking to the lyrics and the melody kind of, but you changed the chords completely. So talk about that process. Like, how did that idea come about, and how did you decide, like, you know, which key and which chords you're going to use in that? And for that song in particular, but any other songs you can talk about.
I think I'm a big fan of the Johnny Cash American recordings, where he'd been gigging for years and nobody paying attention, and all of a sudden a different producer comes in and realizes, actually, this guy's amazing still, and gets him to just sit there with the guitar and play his interpretations. And a lot of them sort of came out in that way for me, because he was doing things like like Personal Jesus that we've done it, and like, what else did he do on that album? But he took things and absolutely turned them on their head. And I can remember listening to that album and just being absolutely blown away by his interpretation of songs that really you wouldn't think he'd be able to do with just him and a guitar and a little bit of an accompaniment. And I feel like that's the way that song in particular, the My Generation, that kind of comes out of my love of what Johnny Cash used to do to songs. But I think as well, when you think about that song, like in the 60s, when the Who wrote that, their feeling behind it was, this is my generation. It was like it was a pride thing that they were shouting at the older stuffy people who've lived through the 40s and 50s, and this is my generation, this is the 60s, this is England. Whereas for me, I sort of felt like, Jesus, look around, this is my generation, what the hell's going on? So
goodness knows what else.
I think that song definitely came out like it did because of that feeling about what's going on at the moment.
That's really interesting. I love that interpretation of that. And you're right, because we're living through crazy times, and talking about it through music is one of the best ways to kind of vent what you're feeling and really relate to other people and have other people relate to you. There was another, so Living on a Prayer was another one. And I play in a cover band here in New Orleans, and I'm from New Jersey originally. And I've played that song a bazillion and a half times. And then I saw you guys do it. And again, different chords. You were playing at E flat, I think, instead of, I think you were tuned to standard and you were playing in an E flat. And was that just a vocal thing to try to?
Well, you sang that one, didn't you?
Yeah. So with that, what I like to do with especially with pieces that are so well known, and like you say, they're really upbeat, and you're thinking, well, how are you going to change that? I often have I listen to the melody, and I'll sit at the piano and I'll think, right, okay, well, what other chords would work well with that melody, and just have a little play around, and just occasionally you come up with something, you go, does that sound okay? Yeah, that might sound okay. And then you just kind of work it in and then play it a few times to convince yourself that it works. And then
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. And one of my favorites of the ones that I did watch, and you put it right in the description, that's what kind of stood out to me, Heart of Glass as a horror movie theme. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be cool. And I started listening to it. I'm like, that you're doing that little half step thing from F to E on the piano. And I'm like, wow, that is cool. It does sound very eerie and suspenseful. And that to me could be in a horror movie. The way, exactly the way you recorded it, that could be part of a soundtrack to a horror movie. I mean, how did you come up with that idea for that song?
So that was born out of me looking at the lyrics again, and the lyrics are actually really stalkery.
Yeah, it's quite dark if
really
you want to
dark,
interpret it.
But it's just it's a really upbeat 80s sugary pop, but you actually listen to the lyrics, and it's just like, oh yeah, I once had a love, and it just didn't work out, and but you basically still stalking this guy. So then so I just thought, right, I'm gonna dark this up and just see what I can do, and then start to do that little diminished.
But that the actual riff in it, you came up with that on the piano, didn't you?
Yeah.
And we didn't think it was suicidal enough. So I've got I've got a Strymon Mobius pedal that gives you a rotary, like a Leslie speaker sound, and I just got that and turned it as the sound you wouldn't normally use, where you turn it on ultra fast Leslie, like moving between the two speakers, like rotated, and it just gave it this really, as soon as I just played what you were playing on the, and it sounded great on the piano, but then we put it on that, we were like, this is this is terrifying.
Do you remember that when I first played you the version upstairs on the piano, and I said, right, I've done Heart of Glass. I said, just imagine it's in some kind of thriller with a woman who's about to kill her husband or somebody who doesn't like her.
No, I just stopped.
I remember turning around, your face was like, this is a bit disturbing.
Yeah.
It's cool. It is disturbing, but it's cool. Because again, I've heard that song, a million times, and Blondie song, like I said, in the '80s, very popular. But you took it and put it on its rear end and made it different. And I mean, you did that with a lot of songs, but there were songs that you stayed pretty authentic to the arrangement as well. And some that stood out to me, Hazy Shade of Winter, which Simon and Garfunkel song covered by the Bangles,
Mm.
but very good version that you guys did. Hand in My Pocket, Atlantis, and like you mentioned before, Hotel California. One of the things I really enjoyed, and I imagine this was from the editing process, but in going through watching the videos, as soon as I hit play, bang, you're in the song. Like there's no BS, you kind of dispense with a lot of the intros. And I don't know if you did that while you were playing or you did that as you were editing, but it comes across as like, okay, there's no filler here. You're getting right into the song. Was that a conscious decision or did it just kind of come about that way?
It wasn't conscious because I've not thought about it until you asked that question.
Okay.
I don't think we never sat there and were thinking, oh, we should do something to camera first or anything like that. We were just like, okay, is everything recording?
Yeah,
Everything's
it was never discussed, was it? We just kind of that's just how it came out. I think that's just how I think when we're playing, just me and you, that is how we approach it. If we were in a venue as well, it wasn't.
Yeah, we're quite shy in some ways like that. Like
talking. Well, we would talk in between.
Well, no, we talk, but like talking to camera when there's no.
Yeah,
there,
it just feels a bit awkward, really, because if people are going to click on a video that says this is what Blondie would sound like as a horror movie, they don't really want to hear us talking. So we just want to get straight in and show them exactly what we mean by that. So yeah, it wasn't conscious, but yeah, it's interesting that you've picked up on it because we didn't.
Yeah. Well, because if you watch people perform on YouTube and put their videos up, a lot of times it's like, all right, get to the song, all right, get to and it makes a difference for the viewer, and it makes you want to kind of go to the next song because that you're not going to have to wade through fluff or whatever.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of Beatles, and I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I imagine you guys are too big Beatles fans, which I love. And one that I enjoyed, and it seemed like you guys enjoyed it too. You did "In My Life," which is one of the best Beatles songs ever written. But you have a dog who contributed to the track, and I want to know first of all how you got this dog to howl in key.
And it's trying to get it to stop howling. That's the trick that we haven't managed.
And you guys were both like, the dog howls, and then you're both smiling. So I'm thinking, all right, this was happening while they were recording. The dog was on cue, howling at this point, and like the camera goes to the dog too. Like, how did they do this?
Well, we set up the camera because we had an inkling that she was gonna go for it, but it seems we read something about this a couple of years ago that apparently reed instruments like harmonica, accordion, reed organs, that kind of thing, that when dogs hear it, it brings out this kind of primal reaction that it emulates the sounds of wolves, doesn't it? So when wolves would have called and howled to each other from one location to the other, that's what it brings out in them. I don't know whether all dogs have do this because I've only ever had one dog and I've only played harmonica recently, so I don't know if this is the case with anybody else. But yeah, as soon as I play harmonica or you play accordion, she just puts her head back and she just howls along. And the second I stop playing, she stops howling. So, and she never moves away. So I don't think she's in distress. I don't think she doesn't. I don't think she hates it, but she's very consistent. She does it every single time.
Right. I saw it was twice in the song that the dog. All right, it's your part, and the dog. There's the dog right on cue, singing in key. I love it. I mean, people love stuff like that, like animals being, saying, like I've seen those where the dog's up at the piano and just striking on keys and then howling which is funny to me. So you mentioned that you were doing the live streams, and I saw that you were still doing them throughout this challenge. You were doing once a week and long, like you're up there for like an hour and a half or so. And talk about how that's affected you guys through this whole pandemic, and like how it's maybe helped you and get connected with your audience, because I've been a big proponent of live streams since they were debuted a few years ago on Facebook. And I've always encouraged musicians. I was like, this is a great way to reach people where you otherwise couldn't. Now we kind of got forced into this situation. And as soon as we got forced into the situation, I was out there on Cover Band Central saying, hey, everybody, live stream. This is what you got to do. And you're going to be able to reach an audience you would never, ever be able to reach from people across the world. So talk about that whole thing and how it's helped you and how you may have grown through that process.
Yeah.
Well, it's a funny one, really, because before the lockdown for us, we were doing originals gigs and that kind of thing. We'd have a fairly steady audience who would turn up sometimes, because of the venue they'd promote it. But we never really knew who our fan base were, because we weren't really dedicated to the whole online world, were we?
No, we weren't. We dabbled, didn't we? We shared things and then thought, well, why does nobody care? And, we do a gig one day, and we'd do certain venues like near Manchester where we'd sell them out with people coming to watch us play our original music, and then we'd post
something online,
like a video of an original song that we'd just written, and we'd spent ages doing this video, and then you'd get like,
from your sister.
Yeah, you just get like, and we're thinking, hang on, why do the two not link up? And then we started streaming, and everything sort of changed. We went from, the first videos that we were putting on would have, hardly any interaction. Maybe, you'd have a couple of hundred on Facebook, and then we did our first stream, and there was about 1,500, 2,000 people had watched it within that hour.
And we're thinking, there was about 200 comments or something for the first one. And now we've got to a point where, like, every week, as soon as we finish streaming, we normally go through the comments. And there's normally sort of like,
there's about
350, 400.
400, isn't there? There's usually, we usually get about 1,000 to 1,500 that goes up another 1,000 in the next 24 hours, and that kind of interaction for a band at the level that we're at, I just don't think you can get that with anything other than streaming now.
No.
I think that whole thing of that scroll culture that everybody's in, where you just keep scrolling and you're going past anything that sort of takes a few seconds to click on and go into another link, and you've sort of lost people. But with streaming, it's right there in your face. If you've listened to something else on your stream, on your news feed, with sound on, the sound will come on as well. So it's like you all of a sudden somebody's in your gig, and they might not stay for the whole thing because they probably weren't planning on being there for an hour and a half on their phone or whatever. But yeah, we've just gradually grown, and the same people come back every week, don't they?
And I think the thing that's been shocking for me as well is it's people who we'd never heard of before. They're from all over the world. Like, we've got somebody in Argentina, in Germany, in Australia, in America.
There's people that had been following us anyway, but now we know who they are.
And then they're commenting, and it's really nice. And it's like, oh, we know who you are now. This is brilliant.
Yeah. Had you been using this opportunity to make any revenue? Like, were you putting out like a tip link?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, people have been really generous. Yeah.
Okay. Was that something you did from the beginning, or was it something that came because people were saying, "Hey, how can I tip you guys?"
Yeah, it was the latter. Yeah, we didn't want to put anything on. We said, that's not why we're doing it. We just want to keep playing. We're locked in the house as well.
But that was before we knew that we weren't going to be going back to anything.
Initially we hadn't lost all of our gigs, so we didn't know how long this thing was going to last. But in the end, it's definitely propped us up, the money that people have donated. So it's been brilliant. But yeah, we did get coerced into putting the first tip jar on, didn't we? Because people kept messaging us saying, "Well, I'm going to send it you somehow, so you may as well put something up." So we did.
Send you a check in the post.
Yeah.
There you go. So among these videos too, I saw that you had a bunch of them that were song deconstructions of your own material, and again, I commend you for doing that, because like, in addition to doing these 100 songs, you're like, oh, all right, what else can we do that's kind of creative? And relatively short videos, but I found them very interesting how you kind of just saying, okay, here's one of our songs, and here's you were showing all sorts of. How did that idea come about, and what's been the response from that?
I guess we've had quite a few of the puppeteers ask us on the stream, like, oh, tell it what's that song? Who is Natty Ann? That's where it came from, isn't it? And
then there's a lot of I think the whole streaming world as well does attract other musicians. That's something that we've kind of got used to now, haven't we? It's like if we get 50 people followers on Instagram in a week, you can bet 30 of them will be musicians, either starting out or people that do it for a living. But musicians seem to be very interested in other musicians who are doing streaming. And for me, because I do all the production work in the band, I kind of was thinking about them when we were doing it, because I thought, well, if there's a lot of musicians, they're going to be aware to some degree of engineering. So I thought, so part of it was that on those deconstruction we had Logic open in the background with the original unmastered mix, so that we could solo certain instruments, vocal harmonies, some unusual instruments we had on different things, because I knew people would be interested in that. And even people who are not like musicians or into sound production, they'd probably find it quite interesting.
Oh, my dad finds it really fascinating.
Yeah, a few people have got in touch with us and said, yeah, that was really interesting. I had no idea that all of those instruments were even on that song, and they'd listened to it. They'd listened to the song a lot already, and I hadn't heard those things in there. So it made them hear things that they couldn't hear as a mix. So yeah, it's been a really good response, actually, hasn't it? People who keep asking us when's the next one.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, we better do one tomorrow. Yeah,
that's super cool. How do you guys have time for anything else? Is what I want to know. We're doing all this, right? You said you're full-time musician, so since you don't have to go out and lug gear to a gig and drive an hour or whatever it is, you're at home. You can do this stuff, so that's cool. There was another one that I watched that I wanted to point out how cool it was. Imagine in 3/4 time and like a waltz time. I saw that in the description of the video. I was like, Imagine 3/4, and then I started playing Imagine in my head. Okay, like, all right, how's it going to sound at 3/4 time? And I watched it. I'm like, wow, that works. It works really well. So that's another really cool idea that you came up with. And I imagine that if anybody were to do this kind of project, that's the way it would sort of evolve. If you really stuck to it and said, we have to do a new song, like, how can we change this up? How can we get creative? How can we make this interesting to ourselves and to an audience too? And, it's not always going to work. And I'm sure you found that too. But when it does work, it's like, all right, we found ourselves a gem. And on your YouTube channel, you had about a little over a dozen videos on there prior to starting this. And I saw the first video was June 21st. So now you have 100 and a dozen videos on there as a catalog. I mean, it's not only that you did it, now it's there for anybody to watch for years to come. And that's just a really cool thing. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that. Like you said, people request a song that you did, song number 56 was a great song, and you have to go back and say, all right, what did we do? But now you can go back and watch it, and you can go back and say, like, I got to say, your harmonies are gorgeous. The way you guys sing together, and the harmonies that you chose in a lot of these songs are, again, different than the harmony that would be in the song. So I imagine that took a little bit of work to try to say, okay, who's going to sing what, and how are we going to make this sound like the song but do a different harmony. But very cool. And had you guys been, I imagine you'd been singing together for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6-7 years, haven't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Helen studied with your voice, didn't you, really? And I didn't, so that's been an education for me as well, because Helen was a singing teacher, and I've just sort of stumbled into it because somebody needed to sing in one of the bands that we were in. So you've kind of trained me with harmonies a lot, haven't you, really?
Yeah, but I think as well, because you've got a good ear, you come up with some stuff that I wouldn't.
Well, no, I think the more accurate way of wording that, you're being very diplomatic. Helen will sit at the piano and she's very, very keen on harmony in general, aren't you? So you'll come up and you'll design a very intricate weaving harmony, and I'll just sort of listen and sort of find something that works almost by accident. So I think that's probably more accurate as to what happens. Yeah,
that's cool though. I mean, it's cool how things like that happen with musicians when you're in it, you know, and you're doing stuff, and then all of a sudden you find this thing like, oh wow, okay, that's not something I would have thought of before.
Yeah.
So I mean, Song 100 was yesterday, Bohemian Rhapsody. How did you feel once you got it done? Did you feel like a sense of relief, or a big sense of accomplishment, or thank God it's over, or?
Well, it was quite funny because after we'd done the song, because we'd done as you can imagine, you can't just sort of like sit down and go, right, okay, it's going to be the first take and that's it. So
right.
It'd be nice if that was the case, but no.
It was 14.
14, yeah. after a few false
starts.
starts.
The most by a long stretch to
Yeah.
any of the others.
And then after we'd done it, we were like, okay, yeah, we're happy with that. Then you have sort of a bit of nervousness to say, right, okay, has the audio recorded? Have all the cameras recorded? You know, is it all in focus?
Does it all sound all right?
And then once I know that that's okay, then I have this moment of relief.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've still got at least another hour of editing, and then and you know, putting it all online, doing all the descriptions, all the hashtags. So Helen's like, oh, I goes to get herself a glass of wine, and then I have to start working. So we sort of had slightly different.
I made tea though, didn't I? And then
you did. We're getting into the nitty gritty.
And then I came and sat down, and then I was like, right, okay, he's done the YouTube description. He's going to relax in a second. Then I'm like, oh no, I need to do the Instagram, and I need to. I'm like going, oh, when's it going to be done? When are you going to be?
I had the relief this morning. I think, but no, I don't have the relief that we haven't got to do anything today. It was sort of mixed emotion for me, because it's been tough. It definitely has been tough, and it's been a lot of, you know, my mind's going a bit mental with all the songs that we've learned and that to change and stuff. But equally, I was a little bit disappointed when I got up today, and I thought, oh, we're not creating something that we're going to share with everybody today. So it's kind of slightly mixed emotions.
Right. You probably almost get addicted to it. Like it's you know,
totally. Yeah. That's how it does feel. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, after anything for that long, you're going to be like, okay, this is part of our daily routine now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it must feel like such a great sense of accomplishment now looking back, or maybe you don't feel it yet, or maybe you'll feel it a couple months down the road when you think, oh, wow, so. You know, like we did this whole thing, and now we go back and watch it, and people are still. And when I look through the YouTube videos, I'm like, this got 100 views and this got 150 views. I'm like, no. These guys need some recognition. These guys need to be out there, and people need to see this and be inspired by it, because it inspires me. And I'm sure other people seeing something like this, it will inspire them too. Because again, it's a magnificent undertaking to do anything for 100 days, every day. But to do something like this, that's creative, that takes a lot of work and really kind of spreads a lot of inspiration and joy to other people. I really highly commend you guys for doing this project, and thank you for being part of Cover Band Central and posting it there to let let everybody know about it, or at least let me know about it. So what's next? I mean, we're still in this pandemic. We're still stuck at home. Do you have anything any other projects you're going to do? You're going to take a break, or?
No, we do. I mean, we signed in the midst of doing the 100 days. We got some interest from a publisher in San Francisco, actually, that we've now signed a 1-year deal with, and we need to record like an album's worth of the best of the covers from there, and we've got plans of recording our next album as well. So yeah, we're not going to be as visible in putting a song on every day, but yeah, we're still going to be working on more of the audio side, and then we'll be doing our streams probably 2 or 3 times a week, because we're doing the Facebook, YouTube, Twitch on Fridays at 7 BST, and then we've got plans to do something midweek perhaps as well, and the Sunday. Now we've got a bit more time, and actually that will be a lot less time for us, because like I was saying, it takes like 3 or 4 hours to do one of those videos, but if we do an hour stream, everything's set up, we've got a studio, that takes an hour. So it's actually cut our workload down by 75%, isn't it? So I think, more streaming, and then we'll be recording a covers album and an originals album.
That's cool. Yeah, you got a wealth of material to choose from. You can make 5 albums and still have 40 songs left. So I mean, congratulations on that. And I really think that that's the way that you kind of get ahead in this industry and keep going, is to just do stuff that inspires you, and then you'll get somebody else's attention like you did, and sign deals or whatever, get to travel, whatever it is. But as long as you keep moving, as long as you keep doing stuff, then something will come of it, especially when it comes from a place of inspiration like that. So again, thank you for doing that, and for inspiring other people and being a part of this this thing that I built, this whole Cover Band Central thing. Anything else you want to talk about, or you want to tell people about, you guys? Thehorsepuppets.com is where you can find these guys. They're also on Facebook, and I imagine Instagram and all the other social medias. But anything else you want to tell anybody?
I think just that, watch this space, because I think we've got plans to put out a crowdfunder in the next few weeks, haven't we? Because we've lost all of our work at the minute, and so we're kind of hoping we can raise a bit of money towards giving us some time.
So we don't have to get a full-time job.
Yeah, because otherwise we're gonna have to go non-music for a bit, aren't we? So we just want a little bit more of a buffer, so we can carry on creating. But with a bit of luck, we can make some songs that get placed somewhere, so we can carry on just being creative and producing content for people to enjoy. That's ultimately what we'd like to do.
That's fantastic to hear. Keep going. Good luck with everything. You deserve it. I mean, put all that work in, you certainly deserve anything good that comes your way. Paul and Helen, by the way, from the Horse Puppets from Manchester, England, thank you for joining me today, guys. And stay in touch. Keep posting on Cover Band Central, whatever you're doing. Even if it's original stuff, I don't turn that down. I'm really all about celebrating music and musicians. So stay a part of that. Thank you, guys, for being a part of this. And we'll close this out. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Over there. And I'm going to do a write-up about this, and I'll post that in a couple of days. I'll share that with you guys, and I'll put this video in there too, so people can reach it. And hopefully we'll reach some new fans for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys.
So much.
Great to talk to you.
You too. Right. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.